So recently I did a Pokemon-wide Nuzlocke race with a few members of the PBO, and I had an amazing time. I came in third place, but I did not realize how much fun vanilla hardcore Nuzlockes could be. And actually I never really have done a hardcore Nuzlocke of the vanilla games, so my quest to beat every game started today with Pokemon Leafgreen. I played Leafgreen as one of my first GBA video games, and I've not played it in its vanilla state completely for at least 12 years. So surely a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Leafgreen can't be that hard, right? So as all quests begin, I name myself, and I have to name my rival. I took some deep inspiration in naming him as I really wanted to feel something as I played through the game, and I realized I had to name my rival Klefkes, for the Frederick Klefkes from the PBO. You see, Klefkes has always lived rent-free in my head since he defeated me in both Season 2 and Season 3 of the PBO, and more frequently than not, he would also beat me in our mocks. So I figured now would be a great time for us to get the upper hand and finally get a win under our belt. So I grabbed my LeBron the Bulbasaur as our starter, and in classic PBO fashion, lose to the Frederick Klefkes. And to be honest, I forgot that you can actually lose to the rival fight in these games. So I'm really hoping that this naming scheme does not come to haunt me later. One thing about playing a hardcore Nuzlocke of Leafgreen is because it is Generation 1, the variety of Pokemon is not really there, especially early routes. I would say for most playthroughs of vanilla games, you often get stuck with the same encounters between attempts. But there are some exceptions that I will try to highlight during this run. So for my Route 1 encounter, I pick up Tawny the Rattata. Route 22, I get Monkey the Mankey. Route 2, I get Cardi the Pidgey. And in Viridian Forest, I get Vincent the Weedle. I storm through Viridian Forest and head straight to beat Brock, as a level 10 LeBron Bulbasaur with Vine Whip can still power through the level cap being 14. While LeBron goes ham in the gym, I will quickly explain my logic for the style of Nuzlocke I'm trying to play. You see, I'm trying a hybrid mode of a hardcore Nuzlocke where I try to speedrun through the game as quickly as possible and try to limit my overall game time, but will grind if necessary. And yes, I do mean grind. I am not using rare candies, as for most Pokemon games, especially for vanilla games, there is a distinct advantage for grinding against wild Pokemon to get EVs. Although small at first, doing these battles will make your team stronger, even if they are somewhat random. I could technically only defeat Caterpies and get HP EVs, but that would greatly increase my time as I would have to run away from other Pokemon. So for right now, I'm just going to continue to push through with LeBron the Bulbasaur and try to find who is the best option to begin leveling in my team. In the next route, my speedrunning tendencies begin to show, where I go into a fight with a low health on my Bulbasaur, leading to some switching and then the unfortunate sacking of Tawny the Rattata. But to be fair, she did have a modest nature, so I wasn't tied closely to her. But this battle did make me value Cardi a lot more, and I decided to add Pidgey to my team. On Route 3, I catch a Nidoran female named Belly, which is a great encounter and is not guaranteed. We also get access to a Moonstone in Mount Moon, so she is now a permanent member. And also, our Mount Moon encounter is Tulip the Zubat. While in Mount Moon, I learned that Rattata learns Hyper Fang at level 13, which is an 80 base power stab attack and has a secondary effect, which will come up later. Luckily, we pull through and pick up our first evolution in Ivysaur and Nidorina. Now, I'm purposely holding off on getting a Nidoqueen, although I do have a Moonstone at the time, since we get Bite at level 22 before evolving. And our team is quite weak to Psychic type, so having the Bite coverage, especially limited in this game, would be very useful. I grab the Helix Fossil at the end of Mount Moon, and avoid the Mega Kicking and Mega Punching duo on the next route, and get my Route 4 encounter in Sheila the Sandshrew, who is actually a version exclusive for Leafgreen, but does not learn a Crown type move until level 45. And it's Sand Tomb, which is only 15 base power. Who let Game Freak cook? So I proceed to Cerulean City to take on our rival, the Frederick Klefkes. I don't really go up to the level cap as I am confident that my team can handle it, and he leads off with a Pidgeotto while I lead off with my Belly the Nidorina. My strongest move is actually Double Kick, which does not do much damage to the Pidgeotto while it begins to set up sand attacks. I decided to play it safe and switch to Pidgey and double back into my Nidorina on the Gus and continue to take down Pidgeotto with Double Kick. Out comes Abra, and I was super fearful at first because I'm like, surely this thing has confusion, right? But I go into Sheila, the Sandshrew, and it turns out it doesn't actually have anything. So we take it down pretty easily. Out comes Rattata, which I am ready for since Sheila has a great defense stat, but 2 Tail Whips later and I have to switch into Zubat to take a quick attack, and then I double back into Sheila. But the damage is already too much, so I have to go into LeBron to take it out with a Vine Whip, and then out comes Charmander. I go for the Leech Seed thinking that this is the best way of dealing some damage while getting some health if I need to switch around, and immediately get hit with a massive critical hit from the Ember. And also in Generation 3, critical hits do double damage. I then pivot to Nidorina to take another Ember, but it is still doing too much damage, so I risk a crit for more double kick damage, and with no available options, I risk another crit. And I narrowly escaped the battle with no deaths, but that is a huge win, finally defeating the Frederick Klefkes. I continue to push through Route 24 and 25, picking up Jordan the Bellsprout on Route 24, and honestly forget to get my Route 25 encounter, hoping to figure out some way of guaranteeing an Abra later. I help Bill with his machine and take down the Team Rocket Grunt for the Dig TM and evolve our Cardi into Pidgeotto. Route 5, I get Mabel the Meowth, but while leveling up in the next area in Route 11, I accidentally overlevel my LeBron the Ivysaur, as for some reason Sandshrew just gives off insane amount of XP, but this means no Ivysaur for the Misty fight. I catch a Drowsy on Route 11 named Doughboy and Monty from Diglett Cave. I wanted to grind more, but my other mons, Pidgeotto and Nidorina, were getting extremely close to the level cap, so switch training was no longer an option, and I still wanted to have a decent time in terms of the run, so I head straight into the Misty fight. Even in my past experience, Misty is no joke. She leads off with Staryu as I lead off with Belly the Nidorina. I purposely tried to get XP on Nidorina to try to get Bite after taking down Staryu at level 22, so I go for Double Kick as Staryu hardens. Finally, a Water Pulse goes off, indicating that there is a speed tie between us. Water Pulse does decent damage and gets a confusion, but we still land our Double Kick. Fearful of a Water Pulse into confusion hit, I switch into Jordan the Bellsprout as Misty Super Potions. Followed by another Harden, Bellsprout gets off a Vine Whip doing great damage. You take a Water Pulse and decide to switch to Cardi to not risk a crit, followed up by a Quick Attack to take down the Staryu. Everything is going to plan. Starmie comes out, which is a monstrous Pokemon for this stage of the game, with a speed stat of 115, meaning it will outspeed everything, and a special attack of 100. I quickly begin to panic. What's my best play? Go for damage, or try to get off a sand attack? I ultimately lean towards going for the sand attack, but still end up taking the Water Pulse damage. My team is incredibly underleveled and unequipped to handle Starmie, so I sack Tulip to get a free switch. Now I can go in my Nidorina to start biting and win the game. Except, there's no bite. I completely blanked on the fact that I never got the full level up from Staryu because I switched into Bellsprout and Pidgeotto sharing the XP. Live by the XP edging and die by the XP edging. It's all or nothing. We go for a scratch for mediocre damage as Starmie misses a Water Pulse. Maybe that sand attack will come in clutch. Another scratch and I take massive damage from a Water Pulse, activating my Oran Berry. My only hope is weaken Starmie for a quick attack from Pidgeotto. I luckily survive another Water Pulse, and to save a loss I actually sack Mabel instead of Belly to hopefully keep her alive for this fight. I switch in Jordan for a chance to Vine Whip, but Swift is revealed, and I realize my initial sand attack from Pidgeotto was completely meaningless as Swift bypasses accuracy check. Cardi comes in and I need a crit to stay in the game here, but don't get it. The only hope I have left is for a Water Pulse miss. I go belly and I get the miss, but I choked and I needed to double kick, not to poison sting to stay in the game. And that is unfortunately our first attempt at the hardcore Nuzlocke for Leafgreen. Now, I wish I could tell you a tale about how my second attempt was a great improvement for the first attempt, but I literally got the same exact encounters, and this attempt, instead of leveling up Pidgey, I decided to level up an Adamant Weedle that I evolved into a Beedrill, and let's just say the Cerulean rival fight against the Frederick Klefkes did not go well. Attempt 2 was 3.5 hours long IRL and ended up nowhere. I definitely was starting to feel some frustration at this point. For attempt 3, however, I spent a lot more time getting my Pokemon to the correct level cap, making this attempt a breeze until the Misty fight. My main Pokemon this time were LeBron the Ivysaur, Larry the Pidgeotto, Cindy the Sandshrew, and Monkey the Mankey. And as backups, I had Pringle the Meowth and Jordan the Bellsprout. I lead off with LeBron against Misty Staryu, going for a Vine Whip and taking no damage. Luckily, she wastes a Super Potion and I get to take down Staryu easily. What I realized from the first attempt is that Starmie does not have Confusion, so I can actually stay in and go for a Leech Seed. The following turn, I narrowly live a critical hit Swift and get off a Vine Whip. I double into Pidgeotto, and just like that, Misty is easily defeated with really just Ivysaur. By delaying my Route 24 and 25 encounter and picking up the other encounters in the area, I can actually guarantee an Aber encounter on Route 24. And with Sleep Powder Ivysaur, I end up catching it. I will be allowing trade evolutions for my run at level 40, so we can have some more fun during the game. I head into SSN to take on the Rayo fight, and I was feeling very confident about my team. I let off Cindy the Sandshrew against Pidgeotto, but Klefki's 100 IQ Sand Attack gameplay is too effective, so I have to make some doubles to get Sandshrew back in and start chipping away at the Pidgeotto. Several scratches later, I take down Pidgeotto, but I am very low HP. A underleveled Raticate comes out. I debate who to bring in, but decide to try Mankey, but due to how broken Hyper Fang is, I end up getting 2-hit KO'd and lose Mankey. I bring in LeBron and go for a Leech Seed as Raticate goes for a Tail Whip. I get hit with a massive Hyper Fang as I land a Sleep Powder. I switch into Larry the Pidgeotto while Raticate stays asleep. I end up quick attacking twice and finally take down the Raticate. Out comes Kadabra, so I go for a quick attack, but the best read ever, Kadabra gets off a Disable, meaning Kadabra will outspeed me the next turn. Kadabra of course lands a Confusion and gets a Confusion, and I hit myself. Luckily I prevail the following turn and Charmeleon comes out. But my entire team is weak. I go Drowsy and get hit with a critical hit, so I have to sack Drowsy. But at this point, everything is low and I'm not sure what to try. I go Larry the Pidgeotto for a Sand Attack, hoping that I can outspeed and get outsped and die. At this point, Charmeleon outspeeds and takes out all of my Pokemon. Wait, but LeBron clutches up and lives in Ember? But why did I go for a Leech Seed and not a Sleep Powder? And as I slap myself in the face, attempt 3 is over. From attempt 3, I realized I need to change some aspects of the way that I play. The hybrid mode of speedrunning the hardcore Nuzlocke is over. Ensuring our team is at the level cap for each fight is becoming more essential. and I am going to look at enemy teams for boss fights to better prepare for the matches. So for our next attempt, I pick up Pidgey, Rattata, and Caterpie as early encounters, but lose Pidgey early on due to poison and the Viridian Forest after a fight with no potions or antidotes left. But I do pick up Pico the Spearow on Route 4 with an adamant nature, and end up getting a brand new encounter in Shoe the Paris in Mount Moon. So we finally do get some unique encounters. I caught Cinnamon the Sandshrew on Route 4 and did some grinding, picking up Raticate at level 20 and Fearow at level 20, before facing the rival fight, where Rat King the Raticate with broken Hyper Fang and Quick Attack completely wiped out a rival very easily. I picked up all of our other route encounters, again guaranteeing an Abra, but lost a Magikarp while trying to switch train for Misty. But with so many available fishing spots, I will grab another one, but we'll hold on for now. I again grind all 5 of my useful mons up to level 21 before the fight, which took quite a while, but we are now ready for the Misty fight. But like before, as long as we have Ivysaur out front and don't get hacked, LeBron is well equipped to just solo this gym. I can just spam Vine Whip and kind of just take out the Staryu. The Starmie comes out, and I do kind of get risky on a critical hit Swift from Starmie, but luckily I survive, and it puts me in overgrow range to just hit even harder. Gem 2 complete. I do some more training before taking on the next rival fight, evolving our Cinnamon into Sandslash, which given the Dig TM actually hits quite hard, and it's really nice to have a ground type at this point. And once again, I head into the rival fight. However, I am feeling extremely confident he won't be a problem. He leads off with Pidgeotto, and Rat King handles it with a Hyper Fang plus Quick Attack combo, and then Raticate comes out, where I do great damage with Hyper Fang, but the previous Sand attack from the Pidgeotto forces me to switch into Pico the Fearow. I take it out with a Pursuit as Kadabra comes in. My team is very Psychic weak, but I decided to go for Pursuit for some chip and end up risking a Confusion crit to take out the Kadabra. Charmeleon comes out, which I don't know why, but I just go hard Ivysaur to put this thing to sleep, which thankfully he doesn't go for an Ember, and we actually land the Sleep Powder. I then pivot into Cinnamon to KO Charmeleon with a Dig. I go up to the captain and give him some medicine and gain access to Cut. Unfortunately, I am still playing where some HMs are required, so I give Cut to Shu. Back to grinding, and I get a Gyarados, and Shu evolves into Parasect. And at this point, we're ready to take on Gym 3. Now, I know to most people, Lieutenant Surge can be quite intimidating, but with Cinnamon on our side, we really have nothing to worry about, as he leads off with Vortorb and I lead with Sandslash. We take a tackle and hit it with a Dig to KO, and then Pikachu comes out, which hits us with a Quick Attack, and we also KO with a Dig, but we pick up a really unfortunate Paralysis from the Static ability. Surge's Ace Raichu comes out, and I want Cinnamon to have more glory, so I go for a Dig as Raichu Quick Attacks. The next turn, Raichu sets up a double team as I get fully paralyzed. Now, I really start to think, could this go really badly if I get parried again or miss? Yes. Yes, it could. But do I trust Cinnamon enough to pull through? Also, yes. So I just go for the Dig anyways, and we pull through. Cinnamon is our GOAT. She does it again. We had nothing to worry about. We are officially having our furthest attempt, and we are making moves. I push forward onto Route 10, picking up a Voltorb and pick up Machop and Rock Tunnel. I then have to get through the Rock Tunnel, which sucks so bad. I mean, Flash is not required, but even with Googling the correct route, there's still a ton of trainers with really strong Pokemon that I have to run back and heal every time, making it really time consuming. I do, however, make it through to Lavender Town, which means we are about to take on the Frederick Klefkes once again. He leads off with his classic Pidgeotto, who quick attack crits me as I go for a Hyper Fang with my Rat King. I get off another Hyper Fang, taking out Pidgeotto, and out comes Gyarados, which with Intimidate, I decide I have to switch out and go into Ivysaur. He immediately goes for Thrash, which is a super high base power move that does some serious damage. I quickly go for Sleep Powder and land, and the following turn I decide to set up a Leech Seed just for him to wake up again and land another Thrash. I decide to switch to Cinnamon since I have a really high defense stat, and with 2 slashes I am finally able to take him out. Next is Execute. Luckily Shu, our Parasect, is super bulky and gains HP back with Leech Life. Although Leech Life is only 20 base power in this game, it's still quite effective, so it does quite a bit of damage. Next comes out Charmeleon, so we have to pivot into Gyarados, and we end up Dragon Raging twice to take out Charmeleon. And finally is Kadabra, but Gyarados actually has a super high SPDF stat, so I can actually just stay in and tackle twice easily to get the win. On the next routes, I pick up Skip the Vulpix and Lingo the Doduo and head straight into the 4th gym to take on Erica in Celadon City. Now, I lead off with Rat King while Erica leads with a Victreebel. I go for a Hyper Fang as I dodge a Sun Spore and go for another Hyper Fang, just barely missing out the 2-hit KO, and eventually do get Stun Spored. Luckily, I have the Guts ability, meaning if I do land my next attacks, I will be doing more damage. But since naturally paralysis is paralysis, we always get hit with that 30% lotto chance. But ultimately, I end up taking too much damage and have to pivot into Pico the Fearow, who picks off Victreebel with a peck. Tangela then comes out, so I switch into Shu the Parasect and go for a 100% accurate Spore and start to go for Leech Lives. Parasect is actually pretty strong given it has Spore already at this early point in the game, so basically it can let me 1v1 most Pokemon pretty easily, especially grass types. After Tangela goes down, Vileplume comes in, and I survive a Sludge Bomb to get off a Spore, and then go into Pico again, so that I can spam packs until the Vileplume is defeated, and we obtain the 4th gym badge. We then pick up Darwin the Eevee as a free encounter, and then start working our way into the Team Rocket hideout underneath the Coin Casino, in which at the end of it we take on Giovanni. Giovanni leads off with Onix, so LeBron easily takes care of it with a Razor Leaf, followed by Rhyhorn, who also goes down just as easily. In comes in the real threat, Kangaskhan. I take a bite as I set up a Leech Seed, and then next turn take a massive Mega Punch doing almost half HP. I switch into Gyarados to get off an Intimidate, and then pivot into Sand Slash since I have a greater defense stat, finally taking it out with a Slash. We obtain the Silph Scope, meaning we can go see the Marowak in the Pokemon Tower. So I head to Pokemon Tower where I catch a Ghastly, which is pretty common, but there's actually a small chance of getting Cubone here, which is kind of cool. And I also substituted out our Eradicate with Abra, so while grinding in the Pokemon Tower we pick up an evolution, getting a Kadabra. And while we're here, we take down all the Team Rocket grunts at the top of the tower. In doing so, this gives us access to the Pokeflute, allowing us to wake up Snorlax. But I end up taking down Snorlax at the next route instead of catching it, given it's not the easiest catch with a high base power Body Slam and a Rest plus Snore combo that can be quite annoying, so you can never actually get it down to low HP. I move on to the next routes to Fuchsia City, where I begin to grind around the surrounding routes, and unfortunately find out for the first time that when you use the HM move Fly, you can actually still get hit with moves like Gust, so Pico actually goes down here, which is quite annoying. So I throw Rat King back on the team temporarily, and while grinding I also get LeBron's final evolution in Venusaur. While I continue to level up my Pokemon in Silph and in the 5th gym, Kadabra reaches level 41, meaning I get Psychic, and I can evolve it by my rules to get an Alakazam. Unfortunately, no flashy evolution screen, but with Alakazam by my side, spamming Psychics into Koga's team made this by far the easiest battle of all time, as Coughing, then Muck, then another Coughing, and finally Wheezing all go down to Psychics. I then head over to Silph, where I initially did not realize that there was a rival fight here. I thought that was really only in ROM hacks. They lead off with a Pidgeot while I lead Rat King the Raticate, going for 2 Hyper Fangs to take out the large bird. In comes in Gyarados with Intimidate, so I have to pivot into LeBron to do my classic Leech Seed plus Sleep Powder strategy, followed by spamming Razor Leafs to weaken it until it's defeated. In doing so, I also managed to keep all of my health, which is pretty huge. Out comes Execute, which has Confusion, but I have a strong counter to it in Parasect. By spamming slashes, I easily take down Execute, while ×4 resisting any grass type attacks, and taking little damage from Confusion. Out comes the monstrous threat that is Charizard, so I pivot out into Gyarados for the Intimidate as he goes for Wing Attack. I go for Hydro Pump that does over half health, while he goes for Scary Face, reducing my speed. Next turn, he Smokescreens, making my Hydro even more inaccurate, and I miss the Hydro Pump. He goes with the Flamethrower while in Blaze range, meaning I am 2 KO'd at this point. Or, in my case, 1 crit away to dying, which I do to the next Flamethrower. And just like that, one of the best Pokemon of the run is gone. I could go and fish somewhere else, but it feels kind of wrong to get another encounter that way. Anyways, we still have to get through this fight, which can be easily completed with Quick Attack Raticate, or so I thought, as Charizard narrowly lives and we die to a Flamethrower. I bring in Alakazam, hoping I'm faster, and luckily I am. Then out comes my rival's own Alakazam, which only has Future Sight as its damaging move, meaning I can actually switch to Venusaur and set up the Leech Seed, plus get off a Sleep Powder. I know it looks a little bit weird going into Venusaur like this, but as long as Future Sight isn't going to land, I don't have anything to worry about. But unfortunately, the opposing Alakazam does have Calm Mind plus Future Sight plus Recover, so I finally do bring in Zam to take a Future Sight, but still have to essentially play perfectly to not lose to this Alakazam, as a well-played Calm Mind plus Recover strategy could sweep my team at this point. I mean, look at the way that this Alakazam AI is being played right now. It's so close to being perfect. Luckily, we finally are able to whittle it down and win, but not without 2 huge losses. I go and catch a few more encounters to try to find new members to join the team, picking up Krabby, Poliwag, and Grimer, although these don't really fit the style that I want. And finally, we get our next member of the squad, which is Slowpoke and Fuchsia City. I also catch an Execute, what the hell? Execute, oh, I just said it again. Execute, oh my goodness, in the Safari Zone, and decide to bring it on to the team and evolve it into an Executor while grinding my team for the next fight. However, the worst possible thing happens, in which Zam, the Alakazam, goes for a Psychic on a Seaking, bringing it down to red health. We then get hit with a Flail, which does more damage the lower user's health is, and on top of that, get critical hit, meaning Zam goes down. And honestly, this was enough for me to take a break for the night and stop here, because we just lost one of the strongest mons in the entire game. With Zam gone, I am in need of another powerhouse, so I decided to grab Darwin the Eevee and evolve it into Vaporeon with a Water Stone. I then began grinding my Pokemon against Wild Slowpoke to gain more HP EVs, and I end up evolving our Dunstless Slowpoke into Slowbro. Finally, now that everyone is leveled up, I take on Giovanni at the top of Silphco. I lead off with Slowbro while he leads off with Nidorino, in which a Confusion is able to 2-hit KO easily and we take little damage. Out comes Nidoqueen, which we take the first hit to throw out a Surf, then we take a double kick the next turn, and we're able to take the Queen out altogether. Out comes Kangaskhan, so I take the Fake Out because the AI will always go for Fake Out on the first turn, before deciding to switch out into LeBron the Venusaur. Setting up a Leech Seed and taking a Mega Punch, I then go for a Sleep Powder and then switch to Sand Slash to take advantage of my large defense stat. We then go for a Dig to maximize the Leech Seed effect and then take out Kangaskhan. Out comes Rhyhorn, in which I stay in and go for 2 digs, as both of Rhyhorn's attacks miss, so I take down Giovanni easily and get the Master Ball from the President, which is basically useless for our run since we aren't allowing legendaries. I then run straight into the Sabrina fight, where again Psychic types remain one of the strongest types in the game, especially this being Gen 1, there's no Dark types available, and really there's not too many Dark type moves except for Pursuit. I lead off with Darwin against the Kadabra, going for a Surf while they Calm Mind, and they end up using a Hyper Potion. The next turn, Kadabra sets up a Future Sight, and it goes down to another Surf. Out comes Mr. Mime, who goes for a Calm Mind as I Surf again, but now it's time to switch. I bring in Slowbro to take the Psybeam plus the Future Sight damage, and narrowly miss out on the Surf KO. Luckily, I can take another Psybeam and take it out with the Surf. Out comes Venomoth, so I bring in Sand Slash on the Leech Life and then go for 2 slashes to bring it down to red HP. I then switch back into Darwin to go for a Quick Attack, so that I can position myself properly with Vaporeon against Alakazam. Finally, Alakazam comes out, so I have to start going for Surf as Zam sets up Calm Mind, followed up by a very strong Psychic. And with Zam at low HP, I decide not to risk the Quick Attack play and go Omelette to live 2 Psychics, and I do finish it off with a Giga Drain to finish the battle. Although a critical hit could have been devastating, we get the 6th gym badge. We get a few more encounters in Seal and the Ice Cave Place, Coughing and the Pokemon Mansion, and Aerodactyl from the Fossil Guy, none of which we add to the team as I'm feeling quite bonded to the members at this point. I then run into the Blaine fight, leading off with Darwin the Vaporeon against the Growlithe, go for Surf just to one-shot, out comes Ponyta, but it stands no chance as well and dies to Surf. Rapidash comes in for the Fire Spin, but Darwin pulls off the best anime move of all time, dodge it, and kills with another Surf. Blaine's ace Arcanine steps in, going for a takedown, but still gets murked by another Surf, and Darwin is just beyond goated for this. Again, we push through the final gym battle against Giovanni. Darwin is led off against Rhyhorn, which we kill with a Surf. Next is Dugtrio. We easily live an Earthquake and kill with a Surf. Out comes Nidoqueen, killed with a Surf. And then Nidoking goes down, just like all the others. And finally, Rhyhorn, who should have evolved, although it still didn't have a chance either way. Darwin is just too unbelievably strong, and we get all 8 gym badges. Admittedly, I accidentally forgot to record all the footage between the 8th gym and the Elite Four, but some very important things did happen. First off, we beat our rival easily, and then we made our way through Victory Road, since you can actually avoid all the trainers. I started grinding to get to the level cap, and right as I finished up, my game froze. I basically had to restart all the way back at the 8th gym, so naturally I sped through everything again as fast as possible, and while training, Shu the Parasect ran into a Golbat. Normally, this wouldn't be a problem as I can slash twice to knock it out, but I am slower. So I do try to 1v1 it with Parasect and got hit with a mean look. I'm slower, so I have to take an air cutter, which I normally would live, but unfortunately get crit. Although the footage was lost and I could have totally cheated, and I will be real, I really wanted to because I loved Shu so much, but I figured it might haunt me in the Elite Four. So, with Shu gone, I picked up Beavis the Magmar at Mount Ember and level him up as soon as possible. I also had some leftover money after buying everything, so I went and picked up 2 Ice Beam TMs for Slowbro and Vaporeon in the Game Center in Celadon City. But with that being said, our team is as follows: Dunce the Slowbro, Omelette the Execute, Darwin the Vaporeon, Cinnamon the Sandslash, Beavis the Magmar, and LeBron Jr. the 4th the Venusaur. It's all or nothing. Could I have chosen stronger mons? Yes, but these are the mons that got me here, and I believe that they can take us all the way. Except for Beavis. Beavis will fail us, I can already tell. Her rookie energy is just way too strong. Our first opponent of the Elite Four is Lorelei, a user of Ice-type Pokemon. She leads off with her Dugong, while I lead off with Dunce the Slowbro. Dugong goes for Ice Beam, as I go for Psychic, which is a 3-hit KO. So I begin to spam Psychics, so that Lorelei will use her only 4-restore, which she actually does. Then I'm able to take down Dugong with more Psychics. Lorelei's Ace comes out, and Lapras. I was slightly concerned of Body Slam paralysis, but end up staying in to take Surf damage as I go for Psychic. I stay in again to Psychic as I bring Lapras down to activate its Citrus Berry. At this point, a critical hit is a gamble to take out Slowbro, but like a Wet Bandit, I dodge and get off another Psychic to bring it down to red health. I then switch into Darwin the Vaporeon on Ice Beam, and accidentally go for Surf, not realizing that Lapras gets Water Absorb. So then I take a Confuse Ray and decide to go for a Bite next turn and do great damage. But if I hit myself next turn on a Body Slam, then I might get 2-hit KO'd. But since Lapras might see that I have the ability Water Absorb, they might also go for Ice Beam. So I don't really have a safe switch in to Venusaur or Executor, which could one-shot this thing on the next turn. So I risk the confusion, and Darwin pulls through, just what we needed. Out comes Cloyster, so I go hard into Omelette, as its only attacking move is Dive, so I take it out easily with a Giga Drain. Out comes Slowbro, so I go for another Giga Drain, and get a critical hit to take it out completely. Then is Jinx, who's actually really strong and fast for this generation. I pivot Beavis on the Lovely Kiss, and try to break free using Flamethrower, but get lucky enough with a Flame Body proc as Jinx goes for Ice Punch. I continue to try to wake up, but eventually get too low HP, so I have to switch into Darwin, in which I get predicted quite hard and get hit with an Attract. If Darwin could do it before, he can do it now. Darwin lands the bite to take down Jinx, who eventually dies to burn. Darwin has no time for these Chop Queens, and just like that, Lorelei is completely done with several risky plays. Up next is the Fighting type Master Bruno, which really is he a Fighting type Master? I mean, he has 2 Onyxes on his team. Anyways, he leads off with Onyx as I lead off with Omelette and one-shot it easily with a Giga Drain. Hitmonchan comes out, but since Execute actually has decent defense, I feel comfortable staying in and taking a Sky Uppercut, and I take out Hitmonchan with a Psychic. Next is Hitmonlee, who goes for a 120 base power Mega Kick, but Omelette eats it quite easily, and goes for another Psychic, just barely missing out on the KO. If this Hitmonlee had Flail or Reversal, I would be super cooked right now, but luckily he doesn't. So I switch into Sandslash as Bruno uses his only full restore, and I go for Earthquake, and then take a Brick Break. The next turn, I then take out Hitmonlee with another Earthquake. Out comes Bruno's Ace Machamp, so I switch into Dunce the Slowbro as he goes for Bulk Up. I go for Psychic next turn, barely missing the KO, and take big damage from Cross Chop. Luckily, I outspeed the next turn and take it out with a Surf. Finally is Onyx, which is very anticlimactic, and I take it down easily with a Surf. Ultimately, Bruno is not hard at all, the worst factor being that I use a lot of my Psychic and Giga Drain PP to take him on. Also, before the next fight, I will mention going into the Elite Four, I had a level cap of 54, but the levels increase as you go through the Elite Four. But you can't really guarantee leveling up your Pokemon during the battle, so I saved all my rare candies during the playthrough for this exact moment. Next is Agatha, an old woman even older than Professor Oak, who uses Ghost-type Pokemon. She leads off with Gengar as I lead Darwin. Gengar goes for Double Team as I miss my Surf, and oh my god, this is already going so bad. And then I even miss another Surf. But third time is the charm, and we do half damage to Gengar. I then get hit with Confuse Ray the next turn, and unfortunately hit myself. So then I decide to switch into LeBron the Venusaur as I get hit with the Shadow Punch. I luckily land a Leech Seed, meaning I can guarantee whittle down Gengar as it goes for Confuse Ray. I even landed a Sleep Powder through Confusion. LeBron has the eyes of a sniper. I slowly reduce Gengar's HP, and then decide to go into Beavis to finish it off with a Flamethrower while it stays asleep. Out comes Golbat, in which I stay in and go for another Flamethrower, doing half HP and take an Air Cutter. Surprisingly, I outspeed the next turn and land a critical hit to take out Golbat. Next up is Arbok, so I hard switch into Sand Slash on the Sludge Bomb and easily OHKO it the next turn with Earthquake. Haunter comes out and I'm kind of deciding whether I'm really scared of this thing, but nah, I'll just Rock Tomb it down. But I immediately get punished with a mean look. Not really knowing where this is going, surely Cinnamon will just knock this out with Rock Tombs. I get ultra punished again and miss another Rock Tomb, and the next turn I get hit with the Hypnosis and realized I was being played like a puppet all along, as Dream Eater was able to 2-hit KO my Cinnamon and I had no options to switch out or wake up from sleep. That is a really tough loss, as Cinnamon has been on our team since Route 4. So with Cinnamon down, I go to Omelette to revenge with Psychic and easily take down Haunter, meaning losing Cinnamon was just a risk that I didn't need to take. Out comes Agatha's Ace, which is a high level Gengar. I decided to take another risk. Really, my Executor should not die to Shadow Punch, but if I get Hypnosis again, which would be rough, I would have to switch out again. Agatha is defeated, but not with a crucial loss in Cinnamon the Sand Slash, a really strong Pokemon with a great defense stat, speed control options with Rock Tomb for both Lance and our rival. Cinnamon, you will be missed, but we have to continue on without you. For the final member of the Elite Four, and one of the hardest fights in the game, is the Dragon Master, Lance. For those that don't know, in Generation 3, Dragon type is only resisted by Steel, and in Generation 1 Pokemon, there is only Magnemite and Magneton in terms of Steel types, meaning if you don't catch these Pokemon, you don't have the resistance to the 90 base power Outrage, which is still quite strong. Lance leads off with his Gyarados, while I lead off with LeBron, throwing off a Sleep Powder turn 1 to put it to sleep. I then go for Leech Seed, as Gyarados stays asleep. I go for a Razor Leaf, and again Gyarados stays asleep. Gyarados finally wakes up to bite me, and then the following turn, Lance uses his first full restore, while I go for another Sleep Powder, which I miss. So I go for it again the next turn, and slowly but surely, I weaken Gyarados enough so that it goes down to Leech Seed. Out comes Aerodactyl, so I hard switch into Dunce on the Wing Attack. I then take another Wing Attack and almost KO it with Surf, which is quite disappointing since I have to take another Wing Attack, and my Slowbro is quite low HP, and has the TM Ice Beam, which would be helpful for Dragonairs and Dragonites. Next is Dragonair, so I switch into Venusaur as it goes for Outrage. I go for a Leech Seed as it again goes for Outrage, and I'm about half health, so I think I can 1v1 this Dragonair easily. I then make a bold play, hoping to force out Dragonite the following turn and position myself with a full HP Vaporeon. I make an aggressive switch. But not realizing that one out of the two Dragonairs that Lance has, one of them has Thunder Wave. which significantly weakens one of my strongest Pokemon for this matchup. I go for the quick attack next turn and get fully paralyzed and take outrage damage. Darwin gets paralyzed again the next turn, making him even weaker. Out comes the next Dragonair, so I go for Omelette as I go for a Safeguard. I go for a Leech Seed and miss as I take an outrage. Finally, I land a Leech Seed, taking more outrage damage. This turn might make or break our Omelette, but luckily the Dragonair decides to go for Dragon Rage instead of its strongest move. We land a Psychic doing great damage, so I pivot to Darwin hoping to get up another scenario of Vaporeon versus Dragonite. But don't see it coming again, and full restore. Ouch. So I stay in and go for an Ice Beam, luckily not getting paralyzed, and take down Dragonair. Finally is Lance's ace Pokemon Dragonite. I need Darwin to clutch this. Please, Darwin, please. I take a wing attack and no, God, why? Surely a Hyper Beam the next turn can take me out, and Darwin is likely the only Pokemon to one-shot this thing. So I make a critical decision and send out the rookie on the Hyper Beam who gets cooked. I then go Dunce the Slowbro who has lower special attack than Vaporeon, so please don't fail me now. We need this Ice Beam to KO, and it doesn't. Meaning we have to sack another one. I decide ultimately it's Dunce's time to go as he takes a critical hit outrage. So I go LeBron to land a Sleep Powder. I just need Dragonite to stay asleep for 2 turns and we have it. And of course he wakes up instantly and LeBron goes down to a wing attack. At this point the run is over, there's nothing I can do, so I send in Darwin to meet his fate as Dragonite goes for a wing attack and what? Darwin lives on 3 HP and lands an Ice Beam. Stunned by disbelief, we beat Lance. With everyone gone from the team, I'm honestly more stunned by what just happened than taking in the losses. I'm still focused on one thing, beating our rival, the Frederick Klefkes. I will not have come this far to lose to him. I take a moment to use everything available to me, full restores, elixirs, irons, carbos, everything so that Darwin and Omelette can have a chance to win this. But with nothing left to lose, it's all or nothing. We walk into the champion room to find Klefkes. It's time to finally change the PBO lore, and the New York Nickets will prevail. He leads off with Pidgeot as I lead off with Darwin, and immediately goes for a Feather Dance, as I land an Ice Beam doing great damage. The following turn, I take an Aerial Ace and take it out with another Ice Beam. Next up is Exeggutor, really the only Pokemon to counter my Vaporeon, so I have to switch out into Omelette. Upon switching out, I take a Sleep Powder. The opposing Exeggutor goes for Egg Bomb, but it's roughly a 4-hit KO, so I have some time, but I still stay asleep. Next turn, another Egg Bomb comes out, which takes a critical hit, taking my Omelette to red HP, but luckily we do wake up, but we miss our Stun Spore. Oh god, we are so cooked for this fight. But wait, Omelette with the plot armor dodges the Egg Bomb as I get off a Psychic, potentially putting Eggy in rage of Vaporeon Ice Beam. Omelette does go down to the next Egg Bomb, but I have one Pokemon left, Darwin the Vaporeon. I go for an Ice Beam and miss out the KO, but we get the freeze and we are on top of the world and we have a chance to win this thing. I go for another Ice Beam as our opponent uses a full restore, but Ice Beam does great damage and we take down Eggy the next turn with another Ice Beam. Out comes Alakazam. We take a Psychic doing roughly no damage to us and throw off a Surf. Another Psychic is thrown off and Darwin takes it and down goes Alakazam. I really needed Alakazam to choke and go for a Calm Mind in one of these 2 turns. But we do gain another level which could be helpful for us. And Rhydon comes out who is easily KO'd by Surf. 2 Pokemon left. Next is Gyarados. I need to either get a Bite Flinch or an Ice Beam Freeze to stay in the game. I go for the Ice Beam and we get the Freeze. We could actually win this thing if Gyarados stays frozen, and although unlikely, I could outspeed Charizard and take it out with the Surf. I go for another Ice Beam as Gyarados stays frozen. The next turn, I throw off another Ice Beam and Gyarados is still frozen. So we are so in this. Until we're not. Fuck, he had another full restore the entire time. We are so screwed. I should not have wasted my Ice Beams before. I should have been biting the entire time. And for a last ditch effort, I bite for the flinch chance and we get taken out by a Thrash on the Gyarados. No! And like ancient prophecy of old, we lose to the Frederick Cleffies in classic PBO fashion. Now, I know what you're thinking. Did I just watch close to an hour-long video of a Nuzlocke just to watch him lose? Yes, you did. My bad, dog. I will try to get better, I swear. But what you didn't realize is that doing this Nuzlocke was one of the most fun things I've ever done in Pokemon in a long time. And I hope it was enjoyable to watch, as I've been struggling to edit this video for about a month. From watching other YouTubers, you might also get the urge to only watch and play hardest Nuzlocke games of all time. But I think it's actually about playing with Pokemon that you think are cool, and the bonding experience that you get with your team no matter the level of difficulty. I finally feel the value of the 15 plus hours I spent in real time over 3 weeks of playing to grow closer with our party. LeBron, Darwin, Dunce, Omelette, Cinnamon, and I guess Beavis, which really should have been Shu, shout out Shu. And I will never have another moment of playing with these 6 of Pokemon and going into the most up and down Elite Four of all time. I'm planning of honoring this run with some kind of 3D printed statue or something. So although we lost this challenge, I will be back soon to once and for all become the champion of the Kanto region. I sincerely hope you enjoyed, and if you have recommendations on how I can make the editing better, please let me know. And that's it for me. I hope to see you sooner than 4 months. Peace.